to be answering a question from Instagram user @AmberMayD, who asks, when you find yourself getting stuck in your ego, what is a quick method you can use to bring yourself back? So this is a great question because it's pretty much the fundamental question in spirituality, right? How do I transcend my ego? Or how do I become enlightened? And so I'll give you the short answer and I'll give you a long answer. The short answer is that you cannot transcend your ego. Because if you are in ego, you don't know you're in ego. Because the ego can only be an unconscious movement. And so the way to truly transcend the ego is just to see its unreality. So you can switch the perception of that question you asked. Instead of what is it that is taking me away? How do I bring myself back again? The truth is that you are actually the one who never comes and goes. The ego, the mind, the thoughts, they are the ones that are appearing and disappearing. But what are they appearing and disappearing inside of? What are these thoughts coming and going inside of? Inside of awareness. And not awareness out there somewhere. You awareness. You are awareness. You are pure consciousness itself. And so awakening happens as soon as the simple recognition is made that, oh, I once thought that I was my thoughts, but man, now I can see clearly that I am not my thoughts. They're always coming and going, but I never feel as though I come and go. I am always here witnessing them, so I must be something beyond thoughts. Even if you're watching this video right now and what I just said resonates with you, then your awakening process has begun. Maybe you Googled this video because you're searching for how do I become enlightened? Well, just the very desire to become enlightened means you already are. Means you are on your way to awakening. You're on your path already. And once the awakening process has begun, it is irreversible. It never can go backwards. Once the serum is injected, the potion is going to start working. And it happens slowly at first for most. Rare people sometimes have a shocking moment of awakening where they kind of jump from 0 to 80. But that's the exception, not the rule. Most of us, it's a slow cooking process because it simply unfolds from your desire for it. The paradox in the idea of enlightenment or awakening is that in order to achieve awakening or enlightenment, you have to do absolutely nothing. It seems like a paradox, but it's always about subtraction. It's always about getting rid of things, not doing something or adding something to yourself. Anything that wants to add something to you is the ego, is the mind, the false identity, which is always looking for identities to attach to. And so the more you rest your sense of identity in the pure divine awareness itself, which is always already here, which has never come and gone, which has always been what you are, then that's the degree to which you're moving up the spectrum of awakening. And so you're here at full ego identity, here in full awareness identity, and you're always somewhere on the spectrum. But once you awaken, you're always going to head this way. And now how far you make it in your life, how fast you make it there, is all dependent on your desire for it, how extreme your desire is for it. If you are passionate for it beyond anything else, if you want awakening more than your next breath, then you will surely achieve it, because it works exactly the same way as it does in the law of attraction. Passion is what brings it to you. And so if you don't want to be identified with your ego anymore, then your ego is already dissolving. Because again, if you were fully in ego, you wouldn't know that you were. You would be still hypnotized by it. You would still be a puppet on a string. And so you're cutting each string one by one every time you witness an action of the ego. Every time you see, oh, that thought was from ego, not me. And the really exciting and fun thing for me in my experience of awakening was that it always felt like I wasn't doing anything. It was an effortless action that just seemed to happen by itself. And my awareness just unfolded on its own. I didn't have to stay alert. I didn't have to keep on guard for the ego. I just went about my day, and just with this happiness and joy of knowing that I'm not my mind, and that was the first thing that started for me. And all of a sudden, while I'm normally talking, normally thinking, there's some intelligence that is recognizing, that's not you, that's ego, that's conditioning talking, that's not you, that's not you. And it just kept on sort of sniping these thoughts out. Because the second you witness the thought, there's a detachment from it. You create a subject-object split, and now you are no longer identified with the thought, but you are observing it from a distance. And then that's what dissolves it, because you're no longer energizing it. And this unfolded completely effortlessly for me. And it does for anyone who truly becomes awakened. The more that you become awakened, the less it will feel like you're doing anything. The more effortless your entire life will feel. And we're so much of the time in a hurry to claim enlightenment, to claim, I know the true self, and I know I'm not my ego. Yep. But when you're truly awakened and enlightened, you don't even really speak of it, because it just becomes, I just woke up to what is. It's not like a big deal, in a sense. Like, it's not some shocking thing. You feel just shocked that you never saw it before. And it just becomes your everyday reality. And you forget what it was even like to be identified with thoughts and thinking and suffering. And so sometimes our questions betray us when we ask things like, oh, how do I come back from my ego again? It's sort of like a man who goes to see a psychiatrist because he believes he's a mouse, and after 2 years of intense therapy, he finally is believing he's not a mouse, but he's a human again. And he says, thank you so much, doctor, for curing me of this mental illness of believing I was a mouse. I'm so happy to know that I'm really a human instead. I just have one question. Do you think the cat knows that I'm not a mouse? It's a little bit like that. And so it's just, it's something to not even take seriously. When you recognize the ego, don't even take it seriously. It wasn't even you that was saying it or thinking it. And this disinterest in the ego and interest in knowing your true self will drive the engine of awakening. And when we awaken to awareness, it is really an awakening to true intelligence. Because awareness simply means, or rather intelligence simply means to be aware of something. And so this perfect intelligence, which created the manifest universe, we see everything in the universe is incredibly intelligently designed, intelligently put together. And it's put together by an intelligence which is not making any effort to do so. It is just blossoming, flowering, creation everywhere. The flower does not break a sweat to bloom. The spiral galaxy does not grit its teeth to become a spiral galaxy. It's just an effortless unfolding. And this effortlessness is our natural state of being. It's the state of being that we witness animals being in. There's no animal, a dolphin trying to be a dolphin, or a tiger trying to be a tiger. It just is a tiger. It just is a dolphin. And we are the only species who are trying to be a person, trying to be what we think we are, constantly having ideas about ourselves. But the only way to be what you truly are is to have no ideas about yourself, to have no concepts about yourself. And the degree to which you do not have concepts or ideas about yourself is the degree to which you can be present. And presence is when divine intelligence is able to unfold in us. And this intelligence is super precise, super accurate, super effective. I wish I could somehow get it in a video form so you can see it. It is intelligence beyond thought, beyond time, beyond language, beyond concepts. It just knows, it just is, and it's always already present. And so your words become incredibly effective, precise, and accurate, and timely, and the dynamics of how to deliver them, the actions to take, the non-actions to take. It all is presented to you effortlessly without having to think about any of it. And again, it feels like even though you're doing things, you're not doing anything. And so the less you try to do, the more you will accomplish, the more you will sink into this divine intelligence who, like you playing a video game, have the real controls and have the real knowledge about the game, what the point of the game is, the rules, what the outcome is. You can Google cheat codes. You have all the answers. The video game character just knows the video game world and nothing else. So it doesn't know what's going on, and it's taking over the controls from you when you're trying to play the game. And this is the mind. This is the ego. And when the character in the game releases control, you can control the character again and start making the right decisions and start winning the game. And this is true intelligence. And this unfolds from pure emptiness itself. The emptier you can be, the more effective you will be. And we've all experienced this divine intelligence at work if we've ever been in a flow state before. So if you're an athlete playing a sport, or a musician, or a writer, speaker, anything that takes talent and skill you've developed, we all know what it feels like when you're deep in a flow state. And athletes practice, professional athletes practice how to induce flow states, especially in basketball. Michael Jordan was famous for saying, when I was in the zone, it was like I could not miss a basket. I could not make a wrong play. And anyone who knows how to induce a flow state knows that it's simply about achieving the state of no thought. It is about getting completely out of the way and just vanishing entirely. And then some intelligence, which is always already present, takes the reins over, and you are super accurate, super precise, and expending no energy at the same time, because the mind is not talking, it is not working. And so this is why Jesus says in the Gospels, "Come unto me and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light, and you will find rest for your souls." He was alluding to this effortless state of being, which is natural to all of us, which simply by getting out of the way psychologically, we can live in all the time. We can live in that flow state all of the time. And all of your actions and words will be precise and effective. And you won't have to regret anything. You won't have to remember what you said anymore. You won't have to put forth any image any longer. Some force is doing this by itself, and it feels as though this is your truest self. So it's really all about presence. So a couple of things you can ask yourself when you recognize a thought or you become suspicious of a thought is you can say, who is the one saying this? What voice is speaking here? Is this thought coming from the true, pure self, from divine intelligence itself, which is perfect and complete? Or is it coming from a lack or victimization or unworthiness mentality? Is it coming from conditioning? And if the answer is yes, you know it's the mind. Because the mind must be rooted in a form of fear. It has to be rooted in one of the three main lies that cause fear, which again are fear of lack, victimization, and unworthiness. And I have a whole video about these three concepts in my Law of Attraction series, which I'll link above. And so if it's ego, it will be rooted in one of these lies. And you will have to believe one of these lies in order to give it energy. So you can say, is this something that comes and goes? Or is this thing eternal? And if it comes and goes, it's not you. You cannot be something that comes and goes. So you stay where you are. You just don't move. You don't give identity to or energy to the thought. And then quickly, like a cloud passing through the sky, it's gone. And even though when it came, it announced itself with a red carpet entrance and trumpets blaring and doing its best song and dance, "Pay attention to me, give me significance." Even then, when it did that, 5 minutes later, it was completely gone, never to be seen again. As much noise as it's making, it's going to be gone very quickly. And so this feeling you have of, oh, I want to say this horrible thing to this person, recognize this is a thought of anger based in a fear mentality that is going to be gone. Tomorrow you won't even remember this moment. So do you want to give it your energy, or would you rather rest in the place of perfection, which is already here? And the choice is simple. I'm not going to give that thought energy. And the more that this awareness happens in you, the easier it becomes to be aware. The more effortlessly it becomes, the farther and deeper you get into it, until your entire life is just this pure feeling of bliss. And even when bad things happen, when tragedies happen, your sense of peace is underneath all of it and driving it. And some sadness can be there, some grief can be there, some pain can be there. But the state which is never coming and going any longer is that peace, that rock-solid foundation, as Jesus said. Build your house on the rock, not on the sand, not on the mind, which is coming and going with the waves all the time. The man who builds his house on the rock has made a firm foundation, and he shall not be moved. So in closing, simply do your best to continuously rest yourself in the place of effortlessness, because the mind is always working. It is always burning a tremendous amount of energy, trying to keep you being a person. And behind the noise and chaos of the mind, there is an effortless being of the heart, which is not making any effort at all to be here, which is not striving, which is not working. It's just shining by itself, like the sun shining in the sky. It's doing nothing to be there. It just is what it is, and it's always already present within you. And being present as you can be, is the simplest way to access this effortless state. And you can ask yourself, where am I now? If you're being clouded with thoughts, where am I right now? Is the mind trying to drag me off? Or am I here in this moment, in this place, in this time? And of course, you're here. You're not in the story in your mind. So just keep asking, where am I now? Here. Where am I now? Here. Where am I ever? Here. The mind is always working, always striving, but the heart is just shining. So the mind works, the heart shines.